Final hour OverDrive continues. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Brian Hayes, Craig Button in here. Mark Masters will join us from Columbus. Leafs Blue Jackets tonight on TSN. Dennis Hildeby will get the start. Joseph Woll not playing. I would assume Stolarz will back up. I don't even know if Woll's in Columbus. He may be, he may not be. It sounds as if he'll play Thursday at home against St. Louis. I can't quite understand why that would be the case. If I'm Craig Berube, I'm putting Stolarz in on Thursday, playing Stolarz on Saturday against Boston. I'm playing Stolarz as if he's my number one guy. That's what I'd be doing.
Craig Berube is in the arena on Monday night hearing the Stolarz chants.
Yes.
I'm sorry. The way he's playing, Joe Woll, you know what I would do with Joe Woll? You're going on a conditioning assignment.
Right.
To the Marlies.
Go down there and play.
That's where you're playing your next game. If I was the manager, that's what I'd be doing with him.
I totally agree. And Stolarz would be my guy. And I'd be nervous. There's a waiver issue and there's a contract issue. Joseph Woll's going to get his opportunity to play. And they believe in Woll and they want him to pop. But if Hildeby plays really well tonight, I'd be concerned about that if I was Joseph Woll. There's some depth in this organization. They've got the Russian kid playing for the Marlies who's been outstanding to start his year.
There is no problem with having too many good players in the organization. That is, I've never heard a manager go, geez, we have too much scoring. Geez, we got all these good goalies. Never a problem.
Always a good thing. Always a good thing. And David Kampf will be a healthy scratch tonight. Ryan Reeves going back into the lineup. And I'll say, listen, you never know what you're going to get out of the opponent. You never know what the opposing goaltender is going to bring to the table. The Leafs play tonight, the way they played last night, they should leave with 2 points. It's very simple. They're just simply better across the board than Columbus. Show up with a similar effort, be physical, lean on them early. You should be up 2-0 after the first. Don't take your foot off the gas. Leave with 2 points, and that's got to be a part of the plan here.
Dictate the game.
Absolutely.
Let Columbus know right out, this is what you got to deal with tonight, gentlemen. And, you might be hoping that we're going to bring a secondary game. No. We're bringing our A game. Scotty Bowman, and we talk about great coaches and trying to set up. Scotty Bowman would go in to a back-to-back, and, he said a lot of times, oh, yeah, there was something there. You know what? He would start his number one line. If they put their number one line, he'd put his number one checking line out there. He'd start his number one goalie. He just said, no, these are 2 points we need.
Yeah.
These are 2 points that are going to help us somewhere down the road. And the more 2 points that you pile up early in the year, the better off you're going to be later in the year. And to me, that's a mindset. And when the coach stands up and says, "This is what we're doing," and everybody sees, "Oh boy, they mean business," and your own team knows you mean business, and the other team knows you mean business, and they're going, "Oh geez, look, we got."
That's how you get the ball rolling on a 110-point season, 112, 100, whatever it is. These games. Again, in the past with the Leafs, it's just been countless opportunities for them to lean on inferior teams where they've just let them up off the mat, blown leads, or said, we're not in the mood tonight. And they still make the playoffs, and they're going to make the playoffs. But then you're the third seed instead of the first seed. And you look at, Boston a couple of years ago. You look at Florida last year, and Florida's doing it again. They're off to a really good start. There's no cup hangover down there. They just announced they've signed Paul Maurice to an extension. So Paul Maurice got his extension. Verhaeghe got it. Reinhart got his deal. He's playing outstanding. I think Bennett's going to sign. I fully expect they sign Sam Bennett. And they're we know what we have, and we're going to the well with these guys. And Forsling signed here long term. And I think Ekblad will be a part of the process. And Bobrovsky, and they like Spencer Knight. And they're just going to keep going back to the well. Why wouldn't you? If you're Florida, why wouldn't you continue to double and triple down, considering what's happened for you the last 2 years?
Well, you're going to the well with frontline proven players.
Yeah.
You think about center ice. You got Barkov, Bennett, Lundell. That's a pretty good 1, 2, 3. Right? It's really good. And then we talk about Verhaeghe, who they signed, Sam Reinhart, who they signed. You got Forsling
on the back.
Long term. Come on. Really? What's the issue down there? And again, a real good group. The Mikulich signing was a terrific signing for them. Kulikov has gone back in there and played so well. It's just hey, they got something good down there.
Yeah, they really do. And Bennett again, I believe they'll sign Bennett, and it sounds as if they're negotiating, and we'll see what happens. But let's presume they lock him in. That means Barkov, Tkachuk, Reinhart, Verhaeghe, Bennett. and Lundell all have long-term deals up front. There's 6 guys. That's the core of your roster up front. And Forsling signed long-term.
Yep.
So your number 1 defenseman, your 6 best forwards. Bob's still got a number of years. I think they like this Knight kid. Like, they drafted him in the first round. I think they believe that he can be a decent tandem. Now Maurice is there. We know their GM, Bill Zito's not going anywhere. Like, that's just a consistently run operation. And it's smart business.
Smart, and they turned a corner. They really, we saw for a lot of years the Florida Panthers just weren't able to get any traction. They had little short spurts. We think back to Gerard Gallant when he went there and was really good, and that didn't last. And then even the year they won the President's Trophy, and I think they won the President's Trophy, but they lost in the second round.
They did, yep.
Yeah, they lost to Tampa Bay in the second round. They scored 3 goals in a 4-game sweep. And Bill Zito said, I'm not. And that's when he made the big trade. He got Tkachuk in there. He traded Weegar. He traded Huberdeau. I mean, it wasn't so much about, hey, Calgary ended up with a good return on that trade. But Bill had said, I need to change the complexion of this team. And he did.
Yeah.
In a big way.
Well, and look at the payoff. I mean, it's been significant. And you look at where Toronto's at. Matthews is locked in. Nylander's locked in. The Tavares and Marner situations are very different because of where they are in their careers, and also the how they plan on building this team moving forward and what those guys are going to be looking for. I will say this: Florida has put a bar in place. It's like Barkov's money. I guess it was more Bobrovsky's money. It's like that's the limit, and you're not going above that. I think that certainly applies in Toronto. No one's going above Austin Matthews. But why would they pay anyone on the wing more than William Nylander? In other words, if you're looking at Mitch Marner, who's obviously a world-class player, great player, how could you justify paying him more than you pay William Nylander? Like, why would Marner get more than Willie?
Yeah, well, I know this, and I you know it as well. The agent will make a case.
Of course he will. And it's a year later, and the cap's gone up in percentages. But why wouldn't Willie's bar be set?
Well, I tend to concur with that. And so what is the bar? Is it 11.25 or is it 11.5? Can you tell?
And maybe it's negligible at that point.
Right,
you say,
let's. Great word. And maybe it's negligible. But to me, when you start to look at it, and Mitch is just under 11 million right now, just barely under 11 million, I guess you can ask for 13 million. Well, you might have to go do it somewhere else.
I totally agree. I mean, I think, again, and we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah.
But in terms of other core pieces here, I'm curious where you think Matthew Knies falls in line in terms of him getting to a point where he becomes a core piece. Well,
so Anton Lundell, let's just use Anton Lundell as an example. I believe it was a 6-year deal at $5 million. I think it was a $5 million AAV.
Mm-hmm.
So he plays different spots, but essentially a really good top 6 forward and minutes, time on ice.
Mm-hmm.
He kills penalties. He plays matchup role, but he's a third line center, but he's the top 6 in minutes. And so that to me is where Matthew Knies has to find himself. Now he doesn't have the same resume as Anton Lundell, but if you want to go to Matthew Knies and start to talk about a contract, I think there's some parameters in place where you can say, hey, listen, and you might want to see a little bit more out of him. You might want to see a little bit more like of a stretch of this consistent play. But I think there's parameters out there that say, okay, here's where we fit you in. And again, every player can make a case that I deserve more. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But are you going to get the same type of responsibility, respect somewhere else that you're getting here? Like, is Matthew Knies going to go somewhere else and be on a top line?
No, not with the equivalent of those two.
Austin,
you got Matthews and Marner on your wing.
There's no chance.
No, it's an incredible opportunity and to his credit, I think he seized it early on.
Agreed.
I think he's played really well. I thought he had a great playoff series against Boston. He was phenomenal in that series. He was reliable. He was physical.
He was good against.
He was good at the year before against Tampa as a rookie.
Yep.
He'd been up here for 2 weeks, and prior to him getting concussed,
right.
Where was it Bennett? I think that got him. It was
Florida,
in Florida, but he was really impactful early, and I wasn't sure he was going to play. I think that was a legit conversation. Should he play? He's played 3 regular season games. He was just a collegiate player a week ago, and he showed up and said, "I'm ready for this," and he proved it. But I thought he was maybe their most consistent player against Boston, And then clearly Berube got here and said, I'm putting you with the big boys immediately. You show me what you got. Don't give me a reason to take you off. And so far, I think he's passed the test across the board. I've really liked this game. And I thought last night was another example, like leaning on guys and just big and physical. He's a big boy. He's a big boy.
He's a big boy. He's competitive. He knows how to play with good players. He's going to play when it's hard, right? And he plays hard.
And that's what this team needs.
Right. And not only what this team needs, you want to be taken seriously as a Stanley Cup contender. Listen, the Leafs are good. We can pencil them in for 100 points. You want to be taken seriously as a Stanley Cup contender when it's hard? You need players like Matthew Nyes.
Mm-hmm.
So he just continues to show that he's tracking towards being a core player. And now you got to just figure out what the dollar sign is in front of him. But I bring up Lundell. Lundell's a really good player, core player.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good contract.
Yep. There's term, there's money. Both parties can be happy there. Leafs Columbus on TSN 4 tonight. Let's head down there and catch up with our TSN Leaf reporter, Mark Masters. The goaltending shuffle, I guess it continues, Mark. What do you make of Hildeby starting tonight? And is it your understanding that Woll will play on Thursday against St. Louis?
Well, I'm not taking anything for granted with the goaltending, considering what we've been through with Woll to start the season. So I can't speak to anything beyond tonight. But it's a little, I guess, a bit of a surprise just because, Joseph Woll is here in Columbus, or at least he was on the ice this morning. And, Craig Berube had said it's a possibility. He certainly seemed to hint that he was going to play in this game, but I guess he's not quite ready. Berube says he's close. We've seen him take part in one full practice, and he's been on the ice 6 times, I believe we've seen him. So just not quite ready to return yet. And I guess if you're not feeling it, why would you rush it at this stage of the season, right? A groin, you don't want that to be nagging. So, yeah, Hildeby gets the call, and what a great opportunity for him to keep building some trust here, keep building some confidence with this team. Connor Timmins, we just spoke to him. He said he feels like Hildeby's getting more and more comfortable with each passing day, and if he can put up a good performance again here tonight, then, he's in a battle himself. He wants to prove that he should be the go-to guy if they have another injury down the line instead of Matt Murray, who's off to a good start with the Toronto Marlies in the American Hockey League. So Hildeby tonight, I don't know what that means for Thursday. There's no practice tomorrow. They have a day off, and then you got the Blues on Thursday, Berube's old team, and then you got the Bruins. That's the big one on Saturday night. You got to think for sure Stolarz is playing that game. Yeah, I don't know what's next here, but I can tell you Hildeby's playing tonight.
Okay, so Mark, I got a couple of questions for you. So number one is, you mentioned about Joe Woll, maybe not just feeling quite right. No practice tomorrow. In your estimation, and I just put this out a little while ago, would you put Joe Woll down for a conditioning stint in the American Hockey League to just try to find his rhythm, his game, his confidence maybe more than anything outside the spotlight of being in the Toronto Maple Leafs region?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how he feels about that. He did that last year coming off the high ankle sprain. He played down in the American Hockey League for a game, and it went well. And then he got back up, and it didn't go quite as well. He wasn't great when he came back from that high ankle sprain with the Leafs, and obviously Samsonov had reclaimed the number one job at that point. But I asked him, I said, what's the key to hitting the ground running? And he said, I've been through, unfortunately, he kind of smiled, I've been through these injuries a lot in my career so far, so I kind of have a confidence that I can come back strong. And I think if he feels like he can do it at the NHL level, I think you get him in as soon as you can, because it's time to get going here for him. And I'm sure he's feeling like that, like he's got to get back in this crease. And, he's coming off the contract extension and how last season ended with not being able to go in Game 7. I'm sure he is, very eager to get back in the net. For whatever reason, it's not happening yet. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the AHL is the right place for him, but that's something only probably he can answer.
Well, is it his choice?
Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing.
But we keep hearing he's just not feeling quite right. Okay, well, we're going to get you feeling right. Like, do you want to put him in the spotlight? That's why I asked the question. You're Craig Berube now, Mark. So I'm asking you to now be Craig Berube. And you're at the game on Monday night. You hear the fans talking about, cheering and chanting Stolarz. Craig Berube, you're Craig Berube. You heard that. Are you really telling me you're not playing Stolarz on Thursday night versus the St. Louis Blues?
Well, I mean, if you look at the schedule, I get Stolarz right back in there Thursday and Saturday. And then maybe Woll gets the Winnipeg game on the Monday. You split up the trip. that's kind of a weird trip with a lot of travel, Boston to Winnipeg. So maybe that's what you do. Or, yeah, you tell them, we're happy with what we got here, and you got to go to the AHL and play a game because we want to get you in and just see how you react. You could always do that. I can tell you, Berube is getting a little sick of having me ask about Woll's status every day. And frankly, it's not my favorite thing to ask about either, but you're just trying to get a read on what exactly is happening here. So I don't know. I don't know where we go from here. I guess we'll find out. I guess our next chance to get up there will be Thursday morning down at the rink.
What did you make of the crowd last night? Because based on what I was seeing from my couch, man, it looked like it was hopping. And for a Monday night, a big opponent against Tampa, but they're chanting, "Where's Stamkos?" Stolarz is getting standing ovations. It was aggressive, physical. I thought the Leafs played great last night. And it seemed like the fans were jacked. Does that answer the whole, chicken or egg question? Is it on the crowd to get the team up, or is it on the team to get the crowd up?
It was great atmosphere. Even felt like the music was louder for whatever reason. Just the whole thing felt louder. I can't recall Leafs fans chanting a chant directed at an opposing team like that. I felt like I was at a Winnipeg Jets home game or something. But,
right.
It was great. It was amazing. It started slow, and then it picked up steam, and I thought that was awesome. And then during that 5-on-3 kill where Stolarz pulls the puck off the line, it was electric in the building. And I think that the fans sensed that this could be different, right? They want to believe it. The Leafs say they're different. They got a new coach. They got a couple new defensemen. Tanev's eating pucks left, right, and center, leading the league in block shots. And Ekman-Larsson is showing off this grit and getting the interference call on Gensel and playing with little bite to his game. So I think the fans are really embracing this. They're not tired or worn down. Certainly there's been some fatigue in the market with some of the how similar it's felt over the years, but you can definitely sense that early this season with what they're seeing on the ice, they're responding to that, and they want to get behind it, and they did last night. It was awesome. It was great because so many times over the years we've had a midweek game or an early week game, and they just haven't been into it. But it just felt, for whatever reason, because of the history between the two teams, because it was physical, kind of off the hop. Because they're getting to know some of these guys like Stolarz, it did feel like there was a little extra energy in the building.
Mark, you've had a front row seat to this team over the last number of years, and you talk about, the fans being excited, seeing change. So I ask you, are you seeing that change that you think can produce results come playoff time?
Yeah, I have, and I'm maybe a little surprised. I know, Hayes, when I was on preseason, always asking me what's the number one reason why it could be different, and you're kind of at that moment struggling, right? You're not sure how different. As John Cooper said on Monday morning, it's the same cast of characters for me, but it hasn't felt that way early. Just again, Ekman-Larsson, it's like he's leading the team in ice time, playing physical, playing well in the defense. I mean, I didn't necessarily expect that. Tanev has come as advertised. Timmins has been a surprise and a bit of a revelation, and he's killing penalties and impressing Berube with his competitiveness. That was the storyline I didn't see coming. And then you got the goaltending depth of Stolarz, and Hildeby looked good in his game, and obviously Woll is kind of one of the areas, that's a kind of the bad news story, one of the few ones early in the season, but it has felt different. It absolutely has. And you got the top lines cooking, and Domi looks good in the middle. And all of a sudden, the William Nylander experiment is a distant memory. It has felt different for me just watching this play out early in the season. It is early, I will stress that, but it has felt different.
I think they have to go into the hard drive and completely erase the idea of William Nylander as a center. So it never comes up again.
Put him where he is.
He's an elite winger in the National Hockey League.
Yes.
You want him to go swing into the middle. So get to that hard drive, Mark. Get that erased so it never comes up again. File not found.
I totally agree. I mean, offensively, I don't know if there's 10, 12 more offensively potent players in the game right now than Willie.
Oh.
Like, in terms of him coming over the boards, that guy's probably going to create an opportunity. Winger, center, otherwise. I mean, the guy is just, like last night, said earlier, that's about as good as you can play if you're a right winger in the league. Guy was dominant last night.
Well, Mark, I got to just quickly say this to you. Prefaced it with, I was a right winger.
Yeah, he wants everyone to know that I have experience doing that.
So he was not just speaking from opinion, he was also speaking from experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, he would know. I thought Nylander was really good on against the Rangers.
Yep.
Had 7 shots, should have scored, couldn't convert, and then he gets them to fall and just had the game, kind of the puck on a string against the Lightning there. That line is just like, you can see Domi and Nylander really have something going between the two, and McMann, who, talk about a distant memory, he was a healthy scratch in the first game of the season, and now, Domi just telling us he's one of the best forecheckers he's ever played with, and he's looking really, really comfortable in that spot. So that line's cooking. If they could just get that third line going, then things would really be humming along here. If Tavares, if Nick Robertson can finally get on the board there. Pacioretty scored last night, which was good for him. We'll see if he can get some traction going again tonight. But that feels like the next step. If they could get that third line clicking at producing something at 5-on-5, then you're really got the makings of a bit of a juggernaut. Well,
David Kampf, a healthy scratch tonight. I'm not sure that's happened at any point during his tenure here, Mark. What do you make of that decision?
Just the second time. Remember, Sheldon Keefe made a big comment. That was one of his things last year. One day, Kampf was a healthy scratch because he missed an assignment or something the game before, and he wanted to show that everyone was going to be held accountable. But it just shows you, like, there's stock up and stock down, and Kampf isn't a go-to guy in the penalty kill anymore. Pontus Holmberg is kind of taking his spot. He's the 6th most used penalty killer up front amongst the Leafs. So I feel like that's why Holmberg's sticking in the lineup, even though he's had some ups and downs here early in the season, and Kampf finds himself on the outside looking in. That's a lot of money in the press box here tonight in Columbus. He'll be sitting beside Timothy Liljegren, who's got the $3 million cap hit, got a $2.4 million cap hit with Kampf. So clearly that's not sustainable to have these two guys that aren't really contributing to the degree where they're now on the outside looking in at this lineup. But yeah, Ryan Reeves comes in. It is an interesting development to see who has fallen down the ranks. And once guys get healthy and come off long-term injured reserve, guys like Yanni Hakanpää, Kelly Yarncroke, Connor Dewar, it'll be intriguing to see what Brad Treliving does with some of these guys that, had been favorites under Sheldon Keefe that clearly aren't with this new coaching staff.
Yeah, and that's going to change, right, Mark? We know that that's going to change. And so, I'm going to just quote, like, I remember Louis Amonte telling his son, Tony was a little bit kind of down about not playing, and Louis told him, if you want to play more, play better. So, you know what? I think it's real simple what's happening here in Toronto. Craig Berube, you want to play? You better play better. You better be competitive. Now, you're talking about the third line. We had a discussion about it earlier. Where does Nick Robertson go? Because it doesn't look like he's been any type of a factor or somebody that looks like you. I know we keep talking about him scoring. He doesn't look like he's any closer to scoring. He looks like he's getting further away.
Well, yeah, and Berube was asked about him last night and said he feels like luck has played a role here, that he feels like Robertson has been getting to the right spots to get chances, but they've just been jumping over a stick. And you could see as the night wore on and the score was out of hand, he was really pressing to try and get on the board last night just to get that feeling back. Obviously, he's a really offensive player. How he scored so much in the preseason, he had the positive momentum, and then he didn't have to play in that final preseason game, and he hasn't been able to get on the board, and it feels like he's lost the mojo, and now he's fighting it a little bit more, and the harder he's trying, the tougher it gets for him. But Berube's sticking with him. Berube is, they know Robertson's been frustrated in the past. Playing time's gone away. He's been in and out of the lineup, and they're saying, we're keeping you in there. We're going to keep giving you a chance, and we'll see if he can respond to that. And playing with Tavares and Pacioretty, these are offensive guys, and they can win some battles for him and maybe get the puck to a good spot. But yeah, it hasn't been there yet. It does feel like maybe it's trending in the wrong direction for him right now with all those zeros on the score sheet each and every game. And you do wonder about where he fits there. And again, I mentioned Dewar's coming back, Yarncroke at some point. Is this just an extended audition for him? And are they looking maybe to move him at some point because they know that that's what he wanted in the offseason? We'll see, but they're sticking with him for now.
Yeah, he had that great backdoor opportunity last night. I think it was Willie who put it on his tape, and he missed it. And I'm like, that one you got to bury. Bury that, get it out of the way. You score, you're off the schneid. But didn't happen. And, he's still playing. To your point, Craig Berube is going to keep putting him out there. But we'll see what comes of it tonight. Leafs Columbus. Enjoy it, Mark. Safe travels back home. We'll do it again soon. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
Mark Masters, our TSN Maple Leaf reporter.
Unbelievable. Mark Masters is unbelievable.
On top of everything in terms of stats, in terms of minutes played, in terms of everything. And like the Kampf thing is an interesting one because, like that was one of the first things Brad Treliving did as the GM of the Leafs. Almost, I want to say it was within like 72 hours of his hiring. They announced that signing. It was really quick. They gave him a 4-year deal at $2.5 million per, I believe. And like you said, he's not killing penalties. He's a fourth-line guy. That's what he is. Like I don't think he's capable of being a third-line center in the league. He's not going to give you offensive numbers. I don't know. Like you mentioned, where does Robertson go? Where does Kampf go? Like how does he contribute to this team long term?
Well, and that's a good question. And let me just go back to your comment about Brad Treliving signing Kampf. Like Brad spent a lot of time. Like I shouldn't say a lot of time. I don't want to speak for him, but he spent time talking to Sheldon before he can. So, like, Brad will take in information, and he probably had a really good feeling that this was a player that was valued for a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. And Brad would have known the player and watched the player, right? And so, he feels, okay, let's get this settled, like get it off the books. But what ends up happening is things change, and I think that's where you always have to be careful as a manager. You're trying to deal with the short term, and we heard Mike Johnson talk earlier. You're trying to find value, and where do you sign a player, and when's the right time to sign a player. Sometimes waiting a little while is the best move. Mm-hmm. Everybody's trying to find that value, but at the same time, maybe the value is in waiting, not in trying to apply a dollar figure there. Because I'm a big believer in this, and this is not a criticism of David Kampf. There's a lot of David Kampfs out there. Like think that you're not players. If you think you can't get a reasonable facsimile of David Kampf out there, then I think that you're failing in terms of identifying players, and that's why I would not be giving long-term contracts of that nature today. I don't care if it's 2.5 or whatever.
I agree with you.
I wouldn't be doing it.
It was strange.
I would not be doing that.
4-year deal.
No.
The guy that the limit is a fourth line. Yeah. I mean, that's ultimately what it is. It's kind of a similar reaction with the Ryan Reeves deal. Like, why is he getting 3 years?
Yep.
Like I had at the time, it didn't make sense.
I get it. You're going to sign, it was $1.3 million, right?
And you believe in the intangibles and all, fine, but make it a 1 or 2 year deal. Why is it a 3 year deal?
I'm 100. I said it at that time. Like, hey, listen, nothing wrong with getting Ryan Reeves, but 3 years seems a little bit puzzling. And I'm just saying what my philosophy would be in that regard. And you know what, David Kampf, we'll give you a 1 year deal, and we'll see where you're at next summer. Right. I think so many. I shouldn't say this. So many. I think there's always this fear that, oh, we got to keep our player. We got to keep a player. There's other players out there, and I'm not saying you don't value your players or you don't you don't consider it. But there's a lot of other players out there. But it's oh no, we can't let him go. You can.
Yeah, you fall in love with your own guys. Yeah, you do that. And listen, Treliving has pointed that out that he's a believer in some consistency, keeping some of because what has happened here for years is the core guys have been here and everyone else has changed multiple times over. The Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares, Riley, those guys have been here forever. Literally everyone else has come and gone. And so they want to find a Nyes, a Domi, a McCabe. They want to find Tanev, other guys where they're like, all right, you're going to be along for the ride here for 3 or 4 years. But those guys I just named are guys who are playing in the top 6, playing in the top 4. That's different than I want consistency on my third pair. Or I want consistency on my fourth line. Listen, if you find a young guy who's cheap that can play there and you like him or whatever and you feel like he's going to bring something to the table, I guess I could justify that if it's at a low number. But they didn't get a discount on David Kampf. They paid top dollar effectively, and they gave him some term. And I'm sure they'd like a mulligan on that. And, again, it's not that he can't play. It's not that he won't find a spot in the league. Someone would take him and be like, we'll plug him in and he'll play.
Exactly. But like that's why I said earlier, like Jake McCabe, like – I want to get him signed.
Yes, he's a guy that looks very comfortable as a Maple Leaf.
And you start to think about so Tanev signed long term, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Morgan Riley, Jake McCabe. Now you're sitting there because there's nobody in the system that's ready to come in and step into that role. So you got your top 4 covered. And I think it's a lot harder to go find a Jake McCabe. And I think Jake has really said he's a competitor.
Yes, he battles.
Oh,
he's physical, he battles, and they've listen, their top 4 is as stable as it's been at any point in a decade, if not more.
And just think about this. Just think about that. That's with the addition of Tanev and Oliver. They never had the right mix there.
No, they didn't.
Bryan, they never did.
No, it was a constant conversation that everyone had an agreement on. It's like this defense just doesn't mix.
Everybody
properly.
had an agreement on except the manager.
Except for the management. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, last year it wasn't. It was
almost like they wanted to just keep. Yeah, we'll show you. Well, you kept showing us that it wasn't
going to work.
Tenable.
Yeah, wasn't going to work. And you can tell like a stable defense just permeates the whole group.
Sure does.
The whole team. All right, we're going to get back to confirm it tonight. We've got our best bets brought to you by FanDuel still to come as well. 16 games in the NHL, 2 games in the NBA tonight. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
I can neither confirm or deny that this is in fact a segment.
Boston trades Andrew Raycroft to Toronto in exchange for the rights to Tuukka Rask.
It's been my honor and a privilege to serve as the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs Hockey Club.
It's time for Confirm or Deny.
Do you regret giving all those gentlemen the no trades or no movement clauses?
I can neither confirm or deny that.
I can't confirm or deny.
All right, confirm it or deny, brought to you by Summit Ford and Southlake Ford Lincoln. Ford employee pricing is back, and you pay what Ford employees pay on most new 2024 Ford vehicles. Limited time only. Visit summitford.com or southlakeford.com today. All right, Craig. Statements are made. We either confirm or we deny them. Very simple stuff. You've done confirm or deny before. Very familiar with this. Let's start here. Confirm or deny. William Nylander is the definitive second best player on the Maple Leafs. Definitively the second best player on the Maple Leafs.
Deny.
You're going to deny.
Matthews is number one.
Yes.
And you can't say definitive when you're up there with Mitch Marner. There's just no way. So I deny.
You're denying it.
You?
I'm going to confirm it by the smallest margin.
Okay.
This gets back to the top 50 list that we did with TSN. And I think you and I had a conversation on this, and everyone voted differently. And I want to say Willie was like 21 on the list and Mitch was 23. We're splitting hairs here. And to your point, on any given night, it could be either guy. I just look at the way Willie's played the last few years, and I look at his goal-scoring ability, and it's the toughest thing to do in the sport. And he is definitively better than Mitch when it comes to goal-scoring. Now, Mitch can create, although Willie's done a lot better at creating recently, and especially this season. But I look at the way that he stepped up this year again on that line, which may have looked like a makeshift line with Max, Domi, and Bobby McMann, and Willie's just said, I'm bringing this to a new height. And I think Mitch would be capable of doing that. He's done that with lines in the past. Undoubtedly, he's done that. But there's a different vibe right now with Willie. And I think Willie he's just passed him a little bit.
I confirm that.
Okay, because he's got mojo going right now.
Yeah, I'm confirming you're confirmed.
Okay, I like it. All right, now we got something going here. All right, confirm or deny. Matthew Nyes should be considered a core piece of this franchise.
Confirm, 100%. I have no doubt.
Yep. I confirm it as well, man, especially considering where he is in the process here.
Yeah.
Like you talk about Willie, Marner, Matthews. I don't think he's going to get to that level. I mean, those three are extremes. They're three spectacular players. But he's in year 2 here. Like, this is his second year in the league. That first year where he came for 3 games and then played the playoff series, that was a precursor just to get your feet wet. Last year was his true rookie season. This is his second year in the league. That means you give him 3 or 4 years, man, he's just going to keep growing and growing and growing. And I think he's proven enough here early and often to say, I think you consider him a core piece.
Yep.
Like, he's a guy that you want to commit to.
Well, he brings attributes and elements to the game that you need and that are important to winning. And so that in and of itself, and then him demonstrating that, to me, it screams core.
Confirm or deny, Andrei Vasilevsky is no longer one of the 5 best goalies in the National Hockey League.
Confirm.
Isn't that a wild statement? Like, when you
is.
think about what he was 2 years ago, for me, he wore the crown and it was undisputed.
Yep.
As good as Hellebuck was, and Shesterkin, even when Shesterkin had that great year a couple of years ago, I said, good for you, standalone, amazing. That guy still got it. I think I have to confirm this as well. I think Hellebuck, Shesterkin, I think you get to Swayman, I think Ottinger's there. I think if healthy, Demko. Now, that's an asterisk because he's not healthy all the time.
Sorokin,
exactly.
He didn't have a great year last year. I mean, better than his numbers appeared, but like when we start to talk about that top five.
Bobrovsky, the way he's played the last 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
Bob would have to be on that list.
I don't think he's in the top five anymore.
I know. I mean, it's kind of crazy to say, but he's third. Like last year, his numbers were not good numbers. And that Leafs series the year before, it was really ugly for him. And this year it just hasn't gone well. I mean, he's got to play himself back into that contention. Based on reputation, top five. Based on all, like, over the last 20 years, you're talking him, Carey Price. Like, there are not many guys that would be in contention with him in terms of that title. But in terms of right now, you're going in the net tonight, I think we can come up with 5 guys you'd rather have in.
Absolutely.
And that's the way to address it. All right, confirm or deny. The Winnipeg Jets are legit cup contenders.
Deny. And I know they were a good team last year. Goals against was the best in the league. Hellebuck was the Vezina Trophy. They have a lot of good players. Right now, the Winnipeg Jets, they don't need to prove it to me or to you. They need to prove it to themselves that come playoff. To be a serious Stanley Cup contender, you got to show yourselves that you should be taken seriously. They've been obliterated in the last 2 playoff series, last year by Colorado and the year before by Vegas. Now, people say, Vegas, that we had some injuries. Okay, fair enough. You won the first game in both those series, and then right off the cliff. So, to me, it's a full deny until they show me and that they can be better come playoff time, because they haven't been.
I deny it, and it's the same. Like the Leafs and the Jets look each other in the mirror on this topic. Obviously, Winnipeg's been the best team in the league to start the year. They've been phenomenal. I think the Leafs have had a spectacular opening to the season. We've talked about them extensively today. They've looked great. They deserve their flowers. It's October. And for me to turn the page and say, okay, I've seen enough here through 5 or 6 games to believe you're going to win 16 games in the spring. I can't get there because of what I've seen in your past, because of what your history is, and what you've done. Winnipeg, all the flowers in the world, they've been phenomenal. They've been the best team in the league to start the year. They've been unbelievable. But I'm sorry, I can't get there until you got to show me first. Yep. Like there's other teams where it's like, if Florida had a bad start, I'd be like, they're still cup contenders.
Yeah, for sure.
The bad start, but they're still cup contenders.
I feel that about Edmonton.
Edmonton, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'd be like, all right, I think they'll figure it out. Even Colorado, with how ugly it's been, they have championship pedigree on that team that has proven it before. So I can get there with that ugly start and still say, you know what, I think I can see something different come April and May. I can't do it the opposite way.
I am with you.
I can't do it the opposite way. All right, confirm or deny, Elias Pettersson has more pressure on himself to perform than any other player in the NHL right now.
That's a 100% confirmed, too. $11.6 million. The Vancouver Canucks looked at that contract and said, okay, we know what you've done. We know what you're capable of. We know how gifted a player you are. And despite, a stretch of time there where he wasn't very good, they signed him to that contract. And you know what's changed since that contract? Absolutely nothing in terms of productivity by Elias Pettersson. Nobody has more to prove than Elias Pettersson.
It is. We talked about it earlier. It's a daily conversation, and I can only imagine what's going on in Vancouver. It's a minute-by-minute conversation in that market. Like, they are obsessed with this, and I would be too. Like, if I was doing this show in Vancouver, I'd be talking about Pettersson every single second on the show because it's such a conundrum because of what we've seen before. It wasn't a scenario where they jumped the gun on a guy on an entry-level deal, looked good, and we said, I project he'll get to 100 points. Sure, he's only at 50 now, but he'll get there. Or some catastrophic injury happened. What do you want? No one saw that coming. Nothing of tangible value has taken place here that would suggest this guy is playing the way he's playing. So I'm going to confirm it as well. There's a part of me that looks to McDavid constantly when a conversation like this comes up because of who he is, and he's the legacy there because he's got to just continue to be the best player in the world. He's got to win a Stanley Cup. You can't do that in October. I think come playoff time, it's McDavid every day of the week when this question comes up for me, because of who he is and what he's got to accomplish to join Gretzky and Lemieux and that's Crosby. Like, that's the group he's in. Come playoff time, a question like this, for me, I zero on one guy. It's McDavid constantly. But in the regular season, I think it is Pettersson because of the market, Canadian market, expectations of the team, very high, should be, very good team. And that contract, he just signed it. And like you said, right prior to signing, it wasn't great. After signing it, this guy has not done anything. Like, from an offensive standpoint, nothing. It's not like he's a guy that you're putting out to, hey, go shut down Matthews or McDavid necessarily either. Like, he's He's paid to produce offensively.
And he hasn't been unlucky. He has been poor.
He's just simply not playing
so
well.
So quick, have you watched any of that series with McDavid in the playoffs?
Yeah, the prime stuff. Yes.
So the prime. Did you see the part where McDavid was talking about, this is where I expect to be, Stanley Cup final.
Yeah.
This is where I wanted to be, where I expected to be. That speaks directly. He's putting the pressure on himself.
Yes, he is.
He ain't shying away from it.
He knows who he is. I get such an appreciation for that. Because
I do too.
That's the quotes. That's what the greats actually do expect. They have to expect that. I remember Tiger Woods saying that when he hit the putt, I think it was at the U.S. Open in 08 or 09 or whatever, to get into the playoff. And he's like, I'm Tiger Woods. I'm supposed to make that putt. Like other guys are like, how do you make that 15-footer under pressure? He's like, you know how I make it? I'm Tiger Woods. I'm supposed to make that putt. If I'm not going to make it, who else is going to make it? And it's the same thing with McDavid and LeBron and all the great players. They're like, I got to be here. I know who I am.
Well, you were in Montreal at the Royal Montreal Golf Course for the President's Cup, and that I think it was the second day when Scheffler followed the birdie putt.
Yes,
and he said, when the international team was celebrating, and Scheffler just,
what's up now? What's up now?
And to your point, Scheffler says, what do you mean? Like, I'm going to make this putt.
And he did. And they went on to win. And it's not shocking. Confirm or deny, Connor Bedard will play for Canada at the Four Nations Cup.
Well, this is interesting. Mike Johnson and I are doing a series. We're picking the Canada team.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah, and we'll have a lot of fun with it. And Mike is great to work with. So we had a little bit of a discussion on that about should Bedard be on the team? Should he not be on the team? Mm-hmm. Now, I will tease this.
Okay.
I will say that we ultimately put Connor Bedard on the team.
Okay.
And,
were you swayed to put him on, or were you swaying MJ?
No, he swayed me, but
okay.
it was a good, like, it wasn't something where I'm going like I'm raised. But ultimately, what we got, he is going to be the future for Canada at international competition.
Yes.
Why not give him that taste right now?
Especially at this tournament.
Even if he's the 13th forward.
I
think he can benefit from. So that's ultimately, where Mike talked about his international success, and I'm there. So that's just, so we've telling you who our 13th forward is.
Your 13th guy is
You'll
Connor
have to
Bedard.
tune into the series next week to find out who our 12 forwards and the line combinations, our 7 defensemen, our goaltenders.
I love it. Well, listen, I confirm it too, because let's face it, the Four Nations Cup is a lesser tournament than the Olympics the next year. Like, this is a platform. It's a manufactured event that I'm excited for because we have not had international hockey in so long. I do think this will pop. I think it will work. I think it's a smart play by the NHL. But I think if we had consistently had the NHLers in the Olympics, if the World Cup had taken off the way they tried to, this tournament wouldn't mean nearly as much. It probably means a bit more. It will mean a bit more because we've had it taken away from us, international hockey. But it's not a big platform event. This is the time to test something like that out. Like, this would be, I wouldn't do this at the Olympic Games. If the Olympics were this year and Bedard wasn't ready, you're not on the team.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You can't, this is not, hey, you're a young guy and we love you. This is the perfect event to do that, though.
Yeah,
get him with Sid, get him with McDavid, get him in there.
Get him in that environment.
Yeah, I like that.
Around
play.
those guys. So,
yes.
That's, and you think about it, it's a return to the international calendar. And this is the first step, dipping the toe back into that, because last time was 2016.
Yeah.
It'll be just about 9 years since we had international
Crazy
hockey.
they allowed that to happen.
Well,
it's so silly.
Well, and I don't think, and I'll be straight, like, I don't think it, like, the IOC didn't do their part. NHL was going to the Olympics in 2022.
And
but
COVID hit,
right,
that hurt.
And
yes.
it did. And so this is the first step back, and certainly I think it's a good step.
Absolutely. Confirm or deny, brought to you by Summit Ford and South Lake Ford Lincoln. Ford employee pricing is back, and you pay what Ford employees pay on most new 2024 Ford vehicles. Limited time only. Visit summitford.com or southlakeford.com today. Leafs Columbus tonight. We'll tee that up. A couple of games in the NBA, and we'll get to our best bets, brought to you by FanDuel next. iHeartRadio's 13 Days of Taylor Swift is your chance to win 4 tickets to the Eras Tour right here in Toronto. All you have to do is download the iHeartRadio app, listen to TSN 1050 for 13 minutes a day. We're also throwing in a 2-night stay at the Sheridan Center downtown and $1,000 cash. Be a legend. Head to tsn1050.ca for all the info. It doesn't get much better than that. Those Era Tour tickets, Craig.
Oh, My daughter's coming here for one of the shows.
Really?
Yeah.
Flying in for it?
Yep.
That's a big one. That is a big night.
Yeah.
That's a bucket list item. I saw her in Detroit. Aaron and I went to see her. My wife and I went to see her. And
I loved what Roberto Luongo tweeted the other day. Did you see his tweet?
No, I didn't.
Well, he'd taken his kids to the Eras tour, to see Taylor Swift. He goes, I won't be able to stop working for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
I'll have to pay for those tickets.
It's nothing is cheap when it comes to T Swift, but she puts on a phenomenal show. I can say that personally.
What an experience!
Yeah, that's what it is. A pop culture moment.
I agree with you.
I went to see her. It was amazing. Raptors starting their season tomorrow night. Tomorrow on OverDrive, we're going to have a chance to we'll give you a chance to win a pair of tickets to see the Raptors take on Nick Nurse and the Sixers Friday night down at Scotiabank. So tune into the show tomorrow and find out how to win. We're looking forward to that. And Leafs in action tonight.
Thanks for having me. I took Noodle's place. Just call me the poodle when I come in here.
The poodle. You roll right in for Noodles. You're the poodle. You're right in there. Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel. And we're on the Leafs tonight. Leafs to win. Mitch Marner, 2+ points. He loves playing Columbus. I think he has a big night tonight. And Leafs over their total 3.5. I think they score 4+ tonight. That paying plus money. Your Best Bets again, powered by FanDuel. Craig, great seeing you. Always great to have you in here. We'll catch you on TSN. We'll catch you on Jay tonight. 16 different games, 5 seconds per game. Is that the plan tonight?
That's the plan.
Full breakdown. We can't wait for it. There's Craig Button. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at 4 p.m. We'll chat then.